So my book, The Memory Chamber, is a psychological thriller, and it's set in the near future, and it's a world in which people can create artificial heavens for themselves after their death. And if they're very lucky and they can afford it, they have someone like our main protagonist, Isabel, who is a heaven architect, and she will create their heavens for them. And in the opening scenes of the book, we see Isabel meeting a new client, Jarek, who is both dying, like most of our clients, and he's also married, and they embark on an affair. So that's how it really starts, and then the plot thickens as the inevitable happens and Jarek dies, and Isabel discovers that he's been accused of murdering his wife before his death, and she embarks on a mission to prove him innocent of that crime. And the course of that mission involves her discovering a lot of things, dark secrets about the technology she's been using that completely rock her view of her world and change everything. The Memory Chamber was inspired from science things I'd read about in the past. I really wanted to write something about brain science, and I wanted to write something about the nature of memory and what we think are the best things about our life and whether they really are the best things about our life. So it came from that idea, and then the character of Isabel was really strong, and I really wanted to create a woman that was really passionate about what she did, to the point of being a perfectionist, but to see that broken down over time. I think the nature of the book has a lot of ethical questions around it, and I think readers will all find different things to take away from it. I hope so. One of the things I personally found really interesting as I was writing it was there's a whole section within there where Isabel is talking to her clients about what they choose to have in their heaven, and they kind of, the response is, well, you know, all the good things, all the best things about my life, all the most wonderful things. And she kind of suggests to them that actually, would they appreciate the good times if they didn't have a taste of the bad times? And yeah, that's something that's really interesting. You know, if you were creating your own heaven, would you want to include bad things about your life in order to frame and shape the good things? So that's one thing I think is really interesting. But there's lots of other ethical dilemmas about new technologies and whether we completely understand them, and whether people start using technologies before we know everything there is to know about them as well. The world of the Memory Chamber starts in London, and I think readers should find it quite recognisable to the world we currently live in. And there, obviously, you see little snippets of a few differences, mainly technological differences. There's self-driving cars, for example. So they're all things that we can see in our future, that are probably almost inevitable, but it's just not that different to today. And the technology behind them, the artificial memories, is quite different and quite likely maybe something a bit more fantastical. But I think the idea of society kind of losing its religion as well is quite a big thing, and I think some of the themes of the book are kind of extrapolated from trends that we see happening in the world today. Yeah, I thought about this obviously quite a lot when I was writing the book, and Isabel is not like me at all, not based on me at all, apart from the blackberry bushes, which she describes in the Open to Her Heaven, and that actually traces a little bit back to where I got the idea for the book. I used to walk my dog, and we'd pick blackberries. Well, he wouldn't, obviously. I would pick the blackberries, and that's me, 100%. I would put that in. There's something about it I love. So yeah, I think I can imagine people's heavens, and my heaven would be those funny things that aren't specific episodic memories, but things you love doing. So there would be a lot of that in there. But yeah, I think it's a really complex question. I personally have atrocious memory, both short and long term. So I would have to spend a long time thinking about the different things I would put into it, I would need a lot of sessions with Isabel, and I'm sure she'd probably tear her hair out with me. Yeah.